Excuse me.
Welcome to episode 200 of the Flying Free podcast. You guys, it is episode 200. We are celebrating today, and I am super excited to be celebrating with two of my favorite fellow advocates, Sarah McDugal and oh my gosh, I'm going to say it wrong. Ngina.
Yes.
Oh, is it Otiende?
Absolutely. You got it.
Oh my gosh. I meant to,
You got it.
I know we've talked about this in the past, but I never have been able to practice it with you in person. So Ngina Otiende. All right.
Oh, you got it perfectly.
So let me just explain to everyone how we know each other. We have this Facebook group. What do you call it? It's on Messenger.
Yeah, it's just a Facebook group message, Facebook Messenger group chat.
Yeah. Yes. It's just a group chat. Okay. So it's not like this official Facebook group or anything, and I don't even know how people have gotten in over time, but it's like a little conglomeration of advocates, and we just like chat about things that are bugging us or questions we might have, or we get advice from each other sometimes, or sometimes we just are like, oh my gosh, this amazing thing just happened, and we celebrate. And it's just
my day just really sucked. I need some pick me up from people who understand.
Exactly. Like sometimes we'll get attacked by nasty people, and then we just want to come into and, download. But we've actually gotten together in person as well a couple of times. So that's been a lot of fun. Not everyone can come each time, but it's kind of developed into this thing. I don't know. Has it been 3 years now? Sarah?
The first time we got together was the winter of 2019. So yeah.
Okay, so before COVID. Oh my gosh, it's been
it was just before COVID. Cause I don't know if you remember, but I remember I was limping around everywhere, and like I was in so much pain, but I had not yet discovered that I had cancer, bone cancer in my leg. And that was November. And it was like 3 or 4 weeks after that trip that I got the diagnosis. And then January 2020 was like cancer, COVID, everything, chemo started in February. Yeah. So it was like, that was like the last slide down into before life went and hit the fan.
Unbelievable. And you got married in there too, somewhere.
Yeah. Like I just did all the things.
Yeah. So she's gone from bald to having, she went from having super long, gorgeous hair. Then she went bald from cancer chemo treatment. And now look at you.
I'm having so much fun. Like I curled in a couple of days ago, and then look, okay, I'm just going to be a complete girly girl for a second. Like I can actually twist it up and do this clippy thingy and like have my hair up.
Yes.
And I haven't been able to do that since the end of 2019. So this is like,
wow.
Awesome. Congratulations.
That's awesome. And you're rocking it.
She can look like a rock star now with her hair all over the place.
Yeah.
Well, and Sarah, so one thing, some of you might remember Sarah, we actually did a podcast episode. This is episode 200, but Sarah came on episode 19. We were just talking about this before we got on here. And that episode is called, Is Self-Care Selfish or Is It a Sacred Duty? And she came on and did a little talk about that. So if you guys want to hit that episode up after you're done with this one, that was a
vintage.
Good one. What?
I said, you got to go vintage for that. When was that? Like 2018?
I think so.
Oh my gosh, that's a while.
Yeah.
Oh my word,
I was doing really good on the self-care there. Totally not taking myself to the doctor while I was hurting like crazy. It took me another year to get to the doctor. So I'm just going to out myself on not being great with this self-care personally.
So that's a truth bomb right there. If you're having physical problems, go to the doctor.
Yourself to the doctor.
Seriously.
Your kids need you alive. Get yourself to the doctor.
Yes. So Sarah, I actually went to your website and looked on your about page. I just want to see can I just read what you say about yourself on your about page? Okay. So for people who don't know Sarah, a lot of people do. I think some people kind of follow They follow the group
All
of us.
Yeah.
But if you don't, you need to know Sarah because she has a special, unique way of communicating. She's the co-founder of Wilderness to Wild, and we'll put links in the show notes too for everybody. And the Trauma Mamas mobile app, which is amazing. So she says, I'm a mama as well as an author, coach, and survivor. Now, this is so fascinating to me. She says, as a neurodivergent woman on the autism spectrum and a survivor of domestic violence and child sexual assault, my hyper focus is developing evidence-based, gospel-aligned resources for women after abuse. Now, I want you to know something about Sarah. She is a communicator extraordinaire. So, I mean, I am totally flabbergasted by your communication style. She is so clear and articulate. She articulates truths that are concepts that are hard to understand in very clear to easy to understand ways with passion. And you just bring a huge gift to the survivor community. 100%, Sarah. Yeah. So she also has books. She has one of her books is called He Chose Porn Over Me, Women Harmed by Men Who Use Porn. Another book is Myths We Believe, Predators We Trust. Good names for your books. Do you have someone to help you?
I actually didn't pick either of those names. I did pick the One Face name. But
so let's say that. Tell that what that
one is called. One Face, Shed the Mask, Own Your Values, and Lead Wisely. That was my first book. He Chose Porn and The Myths We Believe are both co-writes. So he chose porn. I'm one of a number of contributing authors, and that one was published just this year in Australia. The editor of that book is Melinda Tankard-Reese, and she's the founder of Collective Shout, which is an anti-porn, anti-sexual exploitation organization in Australia. Now, just a little fun plug. She and I are planning a speaking book tour in August and September of 23 here in the US. So we are.
Do you know where you're going to be yet?
We are working on a number of options, different churches, organizations, universities, community things, but we have not locked in all the things. So we are open if there are other people who want.
Well, keep me posted because we do this butterfly boot camp thing for Flying Free. It'd be so fun to have you guys come in if you happen to be in the Twin Cities, or you could do a little. Twin Cities, we're a big place.
There's
a lot of people here.
I wonder.
And the Mall of America's here and right next to the international airport. So
we should just do it in the Mall of America, like
100%.
At all the people who are walking by.
Exactly. Like those street corner
street preachers to a whole different level.
More preachers.
Oh my goodness. I actually kind of like that idea. Although it would scare me. I don't think it would scare you though, would it, Sarah? Would it scare you?
I'm not a big fan of the street preacher thing. That is just, I don't like having to stand there and listen. Yeah. Even if I were to agree with what someone was saying, which that usually is like the radical elements, and I'm probably not going to be on board with a lot of that. But even if I were to totally agree, I feel so awkward. I mean, I'm an introvert. Like I will riff with you guys because it's us, right?
Yeah. Well, and think about it too. Street preaching, but it's such a violation of people's boundaries when you think about it.
Yeah.
It really is.
I think that Jesus was all about the relational connection, not yelling at people through a bullhorn and waving placards around. I get it's free speech. People are free to do that, but I want to cross the street and go the other way. I'll go a block on the way to avoid it. And I feel awkward for the person doing it because of what everyone else is thinking of them.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. You brought up Jesus.
Love it in Kenya.
What did you say?
I'm saying you would enjoy it and love it in Kenya because we are like the melting pot of street evangelism and open air crusades. And
now see,
we've done a lot.
I've done an open air crusade thing.
Yeah, I hear you.
But like,
Me too. But
yeah.
I get what you're saying because that's where I am as well. Like right now, I've grown to a place where I was like, oh my gosh, more,
Seriously.
like get more relational, get off the wild side of things and just like connect with people,
Yeah.
There
Yeah.
isn't
Don't
one
impose yourself.
instance. Yeah. There's not one instance in scripture where Jesus stood on a corner and just stood around yelling at people to
Right.
do what he said.
Right.
He sat down at dinner with people nobody else would touch.
Yep. And when he
Mhm.
was speaking to crowds, he was away from the cities and he was out. People had to come to him.
So they
he
wanted to
knew
be there.
exactly.
There
They
was-
wanted to be
Exactly.
there.
There was
Exactly. Yeah.
consent
Mhm.
involved.
But I'm wondering if,
Yeah.
some cultures are maybe more open to that kind of thing. And it's more of like yes, this is what we do. And this
I'm
makes
sure.
life interesting to go over here. And you
Yeah.
just know that you're going to be hearing lots of different people sharing their opinions.
Yeah. Oh yeah. There's that where people actually show up for these meetings. And then there's
Right.
the yeller on the street and then in the buses. And there's that
Fun.
where it's like you can expect that if you go to church, you're going to hear preachings. So like, but if you go to a crusade, you're gonna hear preachings. Like crusade is open air meetings.
Mhm.
So people can do that, but sometimes it's not organized. It can be messy. And yeah.
Yeah. Okay, let's talk about you, Ngina. You are a certified marriage coach, and I guess I didn't really realize that. You do marriage coaching, and you're an author and a blogger. Tell us about your book?
So, 2022 February, January. I'm a certified coach, marriage coach, yes. But this year, after I did my big switch from regular marriage stuff and I rethought everything. So what that involved was I had to take down all my books and courses and I stopped coaching because for me, I went through this season and this period and finally made this decision that I have to change everything. Because I changed within. My belief system was just over a period of time, finally came to a head, and I was like, things need to change. And this is not the small changes that you go to a book or a course and just do minor updates here and there. Like it is a shift in the way I approach things as a marriage coach. So that was going to take a lot of editing, a lot of, it's big. It's just a big overhaul of my resources. So I took everything down. I took all down my books, my courses. So they're not to date, they're not available for sale. And I stopped coaching. Because first and foremost, I wanted to heal physically. I have this thing that it comes out as chronic pain. So I think I've been running for such a while. I've been doing this for like 10 plus years and dealing with stuff, So anyway, I needed to kind of move back from everything, take care of myself, my physical body, but as well as go through this process without it being in a rush. So I stopped. So I am not, this year, I haven't been doing any type of coaching because I'm focused on healing and I'm focused on learning, So yeah, so that's where I'm in this place where yeah, things are, but I'm in a better place. I'm feeling way more peaceful because now I can look at products. I can decide if it's going to go back on sale again or I'm going to script it all together. I'm working on a new course. I have some courses already that are being taken down, but the good thing is when you start to reevaluate things, God gives you new ideas, your eyes open up. So I'm working on something that I hope will be out before the end of the year. I'm not sure. But yeah, so right now, no products, no services, just my blog. Yeah.
I beg to differ. Right now, your products and services are the plethora of really great content that you are continually putting out. You're writing articles and blog posts. You're you're observing and critically analyzing and thinking in a very deeply assessing kind of way. And the memes and the quotes and the things that you put out, I think it is a service.
Oh, 100%. I was going to tell people they need to know where to find you on Facebook and Instagram too, because your memes every day, you've got something that's like on fire. So what is your Instagram handle?
Yeah, so on Instagram, I am, and I meant that the product and the service, and thank you, Sarah. I need affirmation.
Well, I know you mean like paid products and stuff, but
exactly. They kind of have paid products, but this is the switch because of the kind of world I'm coming from, like regular marriage stuff, conservative Christian. So it's been quite it's been quite a challenge for people to accept that and to see what I'm doing as something that the body of Christ needs. You guys have that's your background, that people just come at you because of what you do. They don't think it's something the body of Christ needs. So for me, I'm the newbie in this space, and it's like, oh gosh, Christians, we are so ugly. We can be so ugly. But anyway, Natalie, my Instagram is Ngina Otiende. That's Ngina Otiende. That's Ngina Otiende. That's Instagram. And then on Facebook, it's Intentional Today. Just the word intentional today. And that's my website too, intentionaltoday.com.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much for being here. We're going to have a discussion now. I would love to just have a discussion with both of you about what you're seeing in the world of advocacy or in your own work with people, conversations that you have online or with, Sarah, with your members, women of faith who might be in destructive relationships. Sometimes they don't know really if they are or not. But sometimes they definitely know. Because 10 years ago, we did not have books and blogs and podcasts that were talking about this for Christian women. And those of us who were actually living in abusive relationships, we kind of had to just gut it out. And then eventually, if we wanted to get out, we had to do it alone. We didn't have anyone cheering us on or walking us through it or helping us in any way. And honestly, I think very few people can get out, do it alone, because it's a hellish journey. It's almost unthinkable to go to face this journey. And so the idea of doing it by yourself with actually so much oppression and so much discouragement, not just discouragement, but criticism and really downright hate coming from your Christian community, it just makes it really undoable in many ways. But here we are 10 years later, and there are all kinds of books and websites and podcasts and ministries and online support resources that are going to educate Christian women, walk them alongside them, cheer them on in their healing journey, in any step, in any part of the journey that they're on. And also what I love seeing is that there's an openness to just allowing women to make their own decisions about this and take it at their own pace. So not always. I've heard stories. There are sometimes you might get in with someone who's like, you have to get out and you have to do it now. And if you don't, then you're ruining your children. And that is just kind of swinging the pendulum to the other direction, right? We're not really empowering women to decide. We're shaming them in the opposite way. But I think for the most part, what we see in the advocacy world is just a lot of love and just let's walk alongside you and let's educate you and then get you to the place. I think in the back of our minds, we're thinking we got to get them strong internally so that they can make good choices for themselves and do those hard things. But anyway, I just thought that we could, to celebrate 200 episodes, I thought we could just celebrate where we're at in the survivor community and in the advocacy world. So I know you can just kind of share from your own perspective, but what's coming up for you when I bring this up?
Do you want to go, Ngina?
Yeah, sure. Okay. Sure. And so first, congratulations, Natalie. This is amazing. 200 episodes out there. And I've heard from like friends who discovered you like online, and they're like, there's this lady. What's her name? She has something that like flying. And I'm like, flying free. Like, I don't know. Natalie, she's like, yes. So people are listening to you all over, and just congratulations for the amazing work that you're doing. So fun fact, I am a product of your advocacy. You, Sarah, Sheila, Helena, I think Helena Knowlton, I think she's one of your founding members.
Yeah.
So I am literally, I'm sitting here talking to you, chatting, looking at your beautiful faces as a fruit of your labor in the advocacy world. Because I made the switch back in February, but it had been long in coming. People think I just changed everything overnight, but it's been years of study, of own personal experiences of being in community with people in horribly destructive marriages. And finally, all that came to a head. And I was reading, I was not public, but I was reading your stuff, Natalie and Sarah and Sheila. I've known her for a long time. And Helena, I was studying and reading, and my mind was like, oh my gosh. Because I mean, I was coaching women, and women typically would come to me when they have problems. Like, people don't go for coaching because everything is great. They come for marriage coaching because I need to figure this thing out. And so things were connecting to me, that there were people who were coming to me for that their marriage, it wasn't a relationship problem to begin with, but they thought it was a marriage problem. Meanwhile, it was an individual problem with the couple. So anyway, so I'm sitting here as a fruit of what you guys have the work you've been doing, the studies you've done, this content that you have out there. And I'm just so excited that I'm here on your 200th episode to celebrate. And here I am. Here is, I'm sure you have thousands across the world, but here is one person that can tell you who was in the space, who's still in the space of teaching, and that you're making a huge difference, not just to the women themselves, but to people who are in places of influence and teaching and all that. So that's exciting to me. So when I made that switch, in the way I talk and teach and approach marriage, one of the things that I heard is from the many women who are still reading my stuff, watching my stuff, coming to me for support and all that, saying like, oh gosh, finally you get it,
Oh,
like,
wow.
Finally, yeah,
wow.
like, finally we feel heard. We feel like you are actually getting it, because they want the marriage stuff. It has an audience when you're approaching things healthily, but it's like one part of the room was feeling heard and taken care of, and the other part was like, oh, there's a lot missing, or like, what you're saying isn't really helpful for my marriage. Because a lot of people come to me are not like in what we'd call outrightly, what the lay person would say, oh yeah, that's abuse, because there's no black eye, there's no bruises, there's nothing. So there's a part that needs. So when I started saying things, and there was already a ready audience who already listened to me, and that's why I'm so passionate about marriage teachers getting it right, is because there's a slew of individuals already listening to them, already watching their stuff. Because one of the things I've discovered is that people and you guys know that individuals, women in really destructive marriages, will not automatically, like, run to Sarah, like, oh yeah, I know exactly what is going on, or to Natalie. They will not reach out to Gretchen because it's like, life 7 divorce. No, I don't want to. They just think we're having trouble. So they'll keep on consuming regular marriage content, just thinking we're having normal issues. So when the person who is teaching this stuff is not clear, it does not help them have clarity to like, oops, I don't think this falls within the normal marriage issue spectrum.
Like
so for me,
sorry, well, I'm just thinking, like, just inserting into what you're saying, like, when the best-selling marriage books that you would find on the Christian bookstore shelf tend to use abusive, destructive illustrations as their case study stories, for normal marriage problems, but they're actually talking about rage, marital rape, lack of consent, stonewalling, psychological abuse, manipulation, gaslighting. And they're talking about all of these as those these are just normal. You just need to communicate a little better. So everyone who's having these issues goes to those books and they're like, well, this is just marriage teaching, right? I just need a few tweaks for my marriage to get better.
Yeah.
And they just come up empty-handed. Sorry. Yeah.
No, abuse is normalized in most of those marriage books.
Exactly. And the biggest authors are normalizing it.
Yeah. Because and then they'll say like, oh, this stuff is not for, like, I didn't mean it for you guys. I'm not saying abuse is okay. Some will even say that this abuse is wrong. Abuse is.
But their examples are of abuse.
Exactly.
Like the illustrations, the way they talk about how to deal with it. You guys don't realize that. And I'm coming from a place where I was naive as well. So it's like, I know what I'm talking about, but the way I agitate a point and the way I'm talking, because women came to me, like during my coaching, I wasn't helping everybody, as you know, as a coach, is like, when to refer out, like, okay, I think things are more than what I can help you with. So here's the recommendations of the next step. But the thing is, the way that those illustrations, Sarah, or the way that we approach issues, and even the silence is like the deafening silence about, okay, so what if he never changes? There's nothing, it's always do this. Have you tried this? Okay, then you're given another platitude, another thing that you need to do. How about when a person never changes? Like, we don't talk about like what does the end of the line, so to speak. It's like, oh, there's always hope. There's always hope. We are in Jesus. We all love the Lord. But it's like, yeah, you can love the Lord and be a horrible spouse, that kind of thing. It's like, it doesn't matter what you say. It's what you do that matters. But in our marriage, regular marriage stuff, which you say is regular marriage, but we don't talk about like the worst case scenarios of like, okay, we don't go there. So all our books, all our illustrations are all about, let us figure out how to make it work. Even if the other person, you're saying the other person doesn't want to make it work. So the person who's being advised just becomes Jesus, basically, because they have to keep on trying to save something and working, and they are just slaving themselves out there, just trying to get things. Anyway, so I don't know where I was, but that's pretty that's where I am. That's where I am right now.
So I have a question for you. So you pulled your books, but you are, just clarify for me, are you planning on because we need good marriage books out there, but that don't do what these other marriage books are doing and kind of gaslight everyone to think that marriage is supposed to be abusive or that that's somehow like normal. Are you planning to kind of revamp your books and then put them out there as an alternative to some of these other marriage books?
Oh, absolutely. That's what I've been doing. That's what I'm doing. That's what I'm doing right now. It's just that some books, you know how you have a book and you had an angle, like there's a book I wrote like 6-7 years ago, and I've kept updating it. But I've been looking at it and thinking, now this book needs a whole different approach to it. Like, you have an idea, but so there's some books that I'm wondering, do I update it or do I rewrite? But then others are like courses and all that. So I'm definitely going to put them back out because there are still people to date who don't believe their marriages are abusive because they don't know how to kind of tell between those dynamics.
Right.
So it's like, when you're writing like a regular marriage book, but you also go really broad, it's like kind of like a seed into, as Natalie usually say, that you cannot force somebody, and Sarah, you cannot force somebody to take a step that they are not ready for. But there can be so many seeds along the route that eventually they start to bear fruit in their lives. They're like, okay, So yes, that's a long story short, I am planning to get them out, and I'm super excited to have something that people can actually pick, because you get a lot of questions, and they're like, okay, now at least I can go back to referring people to a book or a resources where they can find more, bigger help.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So are you going to ever get back to coaching again? And and if so, what kind of coaching do you want to do?
Yeah, I want to go back to, I still get so many emails. Oh, people wanting to have appointments and all that. So I want to go back to be honest, I don't know when, because of my health, my own health. So I don't know when, but I had tapped out for 2022. Like, that's what's on my website. I'm not taking any clients for 2022. So I'm trying to see what 2023 comes up with, but I know that since that's my area of certification and all that, so I don't know if I'll go to regular marriage coaching, but I might, because people who come to me are in basically problematic situations. Mm-hmm. So that's an opportunity to offer clarity, but now in a so much better way. And yeah, so I'll likely go, I do want to get my certification in other areas, in trauma and abuse and all that, but I'll likely go back. I just don't know when. I just don't know when, because I'm just playing it by how my mind feels and how my body feels.
Yeah. Because I just got an email this morning from someone who said they had listened to today's podcast, the one that came out today, and they were like, in my marriage, I feel like my husband and I both pick on each other, and we both fight with each other, and we both kind of, and she's like, I don't think she thinks her relationship is abusive, other than, and when I read it, I was like, okay, that might be two people who just need to mature a little bit more, or just need to learn skills of communication, or like that person would benefit from from someone like you. And I think and I actually think there's some people in my program too that they're not necessarily in abusive relationships, but they have problems in their relationships that could be if they came together with someone. But then that leads me to another question. Do you do coaching with couples then, or do you just coach women? How does that work?
I coach women. Women. I had thought of doing couples, and my husband and I in the past have done couples, like men to men. Man to man, women to, like the four of us. Mm-hmm. But I personally just coach women. I haven't had the bandwidth to include the dudes in my coaching. Yeah. I think I just stick to the women.
Well, I think when a woman, if she's not in an abusive relationship, but just a problematic one, if she changes her dance, he will come along. I think that's how actually that the relationship is abusive or not. You change your dance, and then their reaction will let you know who they are, what they're made of.
Yeah, exactly. And since like when it's coaching, as you know, one-on-one coaching, you do it like over a couple of months and weeks. So you have a time to observe, get feedback, figure out what's going on. So that was really clarifying for me even when I was coaching back in the day, to figure out like, what kind of a man is he? Because she'll come back and tell me like the results they're getting or not getting. And it's like, okay, clarity is coming to her as well, and to myself, about the kind of relationship they have, because I don't have direct access to him, but she's able to, so you're right. Yeah. So once you change the dance, the person either changes with you, or they leave, like they tap out.
Or they escalate.
Yes. Yeah, or they escalate. Exactly.
Or they escalate.
Yes.
Those are the ones that I get.
Absolutely. The escalators. Oh my goodness. Yeah.
They're like, ah.
So, well, thank you so much for sharing that. I learned some things. How did you you said you knew Sheila for a while. How did you guys connect? Yes. And we're talking about Sheila Reg Ward, just for people who don't know.
Yeah. So Sheila, I met Sheila quick one. I've been in the US my husband and I have been in the US for 11 years. We are not born and raised in the US. We are Kenyans. We grew up raised in Kenya, and we got married 14 years ago. So we got married 14 years ago, been in the US 11 years. So when I was a newlywed, still in Kenya, my husband and I had a lot of newlywed adjustments. Like we were not doing good as a newlywed couple. So because of how things were said, anyway, lots of details there. But I was online looking for help for our communication because I was like, nah, this isn't working. We've tried all the counseling, we've tried all the mentorship, and nobody's, I don't know, something is missing. And then I went online. Actually, I was reading a guy blog because I was trying to understand my guy. I read a guy blog, and then the guy blog linked to an article of Sheila's. That's like way back. I think I was like a year or so married. And then I followed the link and I found her website, and just my mind was blown. She is the first person who I ever heard talk about boundaries. Because I was coming from a super African Christian conservative culture of like the husband leads. If he doesn't want to talk, you leave him alone. Like the wife go under, So I had never heard of the concept of like boundaries. Like I can tell my husband 1, 2, 3, hold my space, make expectations. Expectations were like, wow, you can have expectations like and hold on to them. So anyway, that's how I came to know Sheila, through her blog post in Kenya, like way back. Then I moved to the US. Because I had started kind of blogging when I was in Kenya. Then I came to the US, started blogging for real. And then now connected that way, reached out to her. And that's so I've known her for quite a while.
Wow. That's amazing.
And then, yeah. And we have actually met once. She was doing like a tour, she does a tour in the North America. So she came near when we lived in the East Coast. She came near where we were, and I went out and met them, and it was great.
Oh, fun. Well,
That's
thanks
really
for
cool.
helping me with that connection. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, Sarah, you're in the hot seat next. Tell us all the things.
I have a few thoughts running around in my head. I'm sorry, that is like the understatement of the century. I have some key points that I want to directly answer your question with, but I kind of also wanted to jump on the bandwagon that Ngina started. And I wanted to say, first of all, Ngina, when I saw somebody sent me your post in January when you pulled your blogs, and I had seen your stuff on Facebook a little bit, but I'll be honest, I thought it was just another generic marriage thing. And that's really not my shtick. Like I'm full up to here for life with generic marriage stuff. So I didn't know you personally yet. And somebody sent me your announcement post. And I was like, holy crap, this woman is going to get hell, or it's very likely that she's going to, and she needs some backup. And that was when I messaged you. And I was like, this is seriously the most courageous thing I have seen in God knows how long. And I was in awe of your openness and vulnerability and bluntness. I like blunt. I mean, just shoot straight already.
Me too. Yeah.
And Natalie, like I remember your blog and Sheila's blogs from like so far back before any of us ever flipped the switch on this stuff, like the happy wife, happy life, bake 16 loaves of bread kind of blogs. And, and when you revamped, I honestly didn't know it was you for a while. And, but your book, Is It Me?, is required reading on the professional coaches training that I'm launching next year. I have a bunch of people already getting through. Like I have distilled down to 25 books that, I mean, there's like 50 that I think everyone should read, but there's like, I have 24 or 25 that are like, if you want to do this course, you have to have done a book report on these books because they are pivotal. And your book is on that list. And Ngina, get your books out, girl. I want more books to be able to refer people to. But I wanted you both to know that. Like, I think both of you are pivotal voices. Unless the people who are listening are like getting all turned off by the mush and the props fest here. Okay, so to answer your question, I love the contrast of the last decade that you painted a few minutes ago, Natalie, just like 10 years ago. I mean, 10 years ago for me, there was nothing like I needed. It's why we do what we do, right? Because when I needed it, it wasn't there. So I'm going to make sure that anyone that is in the circle of influence that I may be given has what I wish I had. I'm going to do my best to turn that pain into purpose so that someone else doesn't have to scrabble in the dark. At the same time, I think among those who are not really abuse informed, there's this sense all of a sudden that in the last 10 years, things have gotten so bad.
Yes, it's true.
Like all these pastors getting busted. They're just like, what's going on? Like the evangelical world is just falling apart at the seams. And those of us who realize it, we're like, oh no, honey, we just pulled back the veil. This has always been there. Yep. It's always been like this. This is the tip of the iceberg. And the Titanic has run aground and get off the ship like running little rats, I mean, so I think there's this perspective among some that abuse has gotten so much worse and we need to do something to make the abuse go away, or at least the reports of it go away, because they've had more than they can stomach. My perspective on that assumption is that Jesus likes to bring things into the light. There's not one place in scripture where Jesus says, ooh, take that dirty little secret and hide it in a closet someplace. Please stuff that back in the dark. No, he says, have no fellowship with the fruitless works of evil and abuse and darkness. Instead, expose it, bring it into the light. When you have, Natalie, you've got 9 kids. I've got 2, and you are a superwoman. And Ngina, I don't know if you have kids. You don't have kids?
No, I don't. No, I don't have kids.
Don't have kids. Okay. So, but I know that there's a bunch of homeschool mamas in your audience, Natalie, that are probably watching, and you've probably done Petri dish experiments with your kids. Like when you are growing mold spores and making fuzzy green and blue stuff, where do you put it? You put it someplace warm and damp in the dark. You do not set it on the kitchen windowsill in direct sunlight because it kills the mold spores, right?
Yep.
So when we take all of these dark, dirty secrets and we shove them with the molding, dirty laundry in the back, they never get hung on the line. And then people are like, why are you hanging out your dirty laundry on the line? Well, nobody that I ever knew growing up. And when I was little, there was a season where we did not have a dryer. We hung our laundry on the line, but never once did we hang dirty laundry on the line. It was you only hang laundry out after you've washed it, right? That's where the clean laundry goes. Yeah. So airing the laundry means it's not moldering in a pile in the back of the cellar corner in the dark. It means it's been washed. It tells the world we do the laundry. We're not wearing stinky clothes and covering up, walking around in a cloud of Axe deodorant to try to mask the smell of the moldy BO. And so there's a smelly word picture my 13-year-old would love.
That was good. That was good. I like that analogy.
That's really good. Yeah.
But I think that while, yes, there are some who are just panicking at the level of abuse that seems to be coming out into the light, if we look at it as, hey, this has always been there, and now we can clean house, this is a good thing. Because it means that it's kind of like pressure washing the mold off the side of a house. You get covered in spray. You got to go take a shower afterward. But once you get to what's underneath, then it's clean again. And while, I mean, we live in a sinful world. We live in an evil world. this is not heaven. So it's never going to be purely clean here. But we can do the best we can to not hand down to our children a generational legacy of evil and secrets and normalized exploitation.
Yep.
And I think that purging is kind of what's going on. What I love is when I get, and people do it to you guys too. I see it happening. So it's not just about me, but when there are people who have platforms that post something toxic and destructive, now, this would never even happen 3 years ago, maybe even 2 years ago, but now people who speak out against that get tagged.
Yeah.
Because there are those who want pushback. They may not be feeling courageous enough or articulate enough, or they may not be safe to write all the answers themselves, but they'll tag you or me or Sheila or Gretchen or somebody. They start tagging people. And like there was a sermon a couple of months ago by, I think it was Craig Groeschel, on marriage. And it was really kind of haphazard. It might not have been, I don't think he was overtly endorsing abuse, but he said things like, if my wife thinks I'm being too controlling, she needs to deal with her heart. Like, what?
Oh my gosh, really?
Wow.
Yeah, that was like a direct quote.
Oh,
and
wow.
Then he also said, this was a meme that they put on the church's website. And it's a mega church, right? Like reaches tens of thousands of people. And there was a meme they put on that's like, getting out of your marriage because you ran out of love is like abandoning your car because you ran out of gas.
I remember seeing that. Yeah.
Okay, so this was the same sermon. And there were hundreds of comments correcting that fallacy.
Good.
They pulled the meme. They did not pull the sermon off of their YouTube channel, but they pulled the meme because it was just pages, just scrolling pages and pages of comments underneath, if you were to print them out, of people saying this is not acceptable. This is endorsing abuse. That people don't just quit being married because they just don't love each other anymore. There's stuff that happens. This is glossing over huge issues. And you know what? A year ago, 3 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, people would have just said, oh, Craig said it. Okay, must be true.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I love where the last decade has gotten. Yes, there's a lot more conflict. Yes, there's a lot more exposure. Yes, there are some people who are running scared of their extracurricular activities getting pulled out into the open. I don't know, maybe you shouldn't have done that in the dark. But I can be snarky too. but when these subtler things are being posted that would never have gotten a second blink before.
Yeah.
Now we have a growing tidal wave. I actually made a t-shirt that says the tidal wave is rising. We have this growing tidal wave of increasingly courageous voices who are willing, just from their little corner of the internet, just from their little corner of conversation, to say, no, that's not okay. Yeah. That idea is flawed. That endorses, even unwittingly, abusive, destructive behavior. You may not mean for it to. I'm not saying you're an evil person, but the concept itself isn't safe. So we have this growing wave of critical thinkers. And I think that's our biggest role as advocates, not getting people out. They have to choose to do that for themselves. Not telling people don't date him. They still have to choose to do that for themselves. But saying, hey, don't swallow everything hook, line, and sinker. Research, analyze, think, critique, use the brain God gave you for such good things.
Yes. The prevention of brainwashing and gaslighting, to not get hooked into that.
Just empowering our generation and definitely the next generation to be analytical thinkers.
Yeah.
And to not be so desperate for affirmation from a partner that they're willing to put up with concentration camp level conditions, you know, just for crumbs.
Yeah. So this reminds me, we were even in our little Facebook group there, it came up that there are people out the, you know, sometimes the big mega church people or the, what do you call them? The theology bros.
Theo bros.
Theo bros. Yeah.
Theo
the
bros.
Theo bros. They're like, they don't like that there are women like us with platforms that are changing the whole
to the colonialist society.
Yeah. So they're kind of critical of us. So that kind of came up, which it made me like, I was like, awesome. This is so cool that we're making enough of a splash that it's actually interfering. We're putting some static in their radio show.
Yeah.
And they do not like that.
No, they don't. They don't like that, the fact that it's a woman talking to them. Like, it's like, you don't even have I think there's a special kind of hatred when it's a woman versus if it's a man calling them out. It's like, if it's a man, we're good. You're a bro, just like, let's talk this. When it's a woman, like, it's like there's a special type of way they feel, which reveals the misogyny and their just corrosive ideas about, like, it's so revealing. Because, like, I've had men come at me, I'm like, really? And you're a brat? It's like the mockery, just look, that tone dripping, and just, I'm like, you cannot talk to me like a human being, right? Like, you don't, and you don't agree with me, but can you talk to me without talking down at me? So I think the fact that it's women, and I think some women, like, I've had a Theo bro, you know, constantly at my case, and the women were like, oh my goodness, I follow you, but the way you're behaving here right now, it's just so un-Christ-like. And I'm like, you brought that on yourself, and people now can see what kind of a person you are. So agreeing with you, Natalie.
You know what I think they're scared of, Natalie?
What?
I think they're scared that their wives will discover that they have the right to think for themselves, and it will topple their little tiny dominions.
Yeah.
Because when you're living in a world, it's like, I gave my child this historical social studies example just last night. And I was saying, look, why do the people who are benefiting, or why do the people in power never start a civil movement? Why is a civil war always started by the underdog? Well, he started kind of thinking it through. I was like, okay, well, 150 years ago in the United States, were the slave owners the ones who were fighting for slaves' freedom? He's like, no. I was like, but why? Because the system benefited them.
Right.
Because the free labor, the freedom to control, the freedom for arrogance and to be a kingpin, the freedom for unchecked entitlement, they believed it was their biblical sacred right.
Yeah.
And it was their racial or genetic right. They believed it was their gender right to have dominion and control and dictatorial authority over those they perceived to be lesser than themselves.
Yep.
And so a civil war, a battle for rights, a battle for equality, a battle for justice is never initiated by those who benefit from the inequalities in the system because it works for them.
That's right. Can I just interject this too?
Yeah.
Because that is true about divorce too. A lot of times women will be like, well, I don't want to be the one to initiate the divorce, because if I'm the one to initiate the divorce, then I'm the one that's going to get excommunicated or turned away. I'm the rebellion, or the rebellious one. But it's the same thing. It's take the husband. He's the one who's the abusive husband, he's the one who's benefiting from the relationship. That's why he's not going to file for divorce, typically speaking. Okay.
Typically.
So, but she's going to have
there's
to
other
be
things going on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I when we're talking about the whole Theo bro kind of thing, and there's, you guys know, especially on Twitter, oh my word, especially on Twitter, it's like this certain slice of the population pie, and they have a very unique way of speaking that does not recognize the image of God in anyone except those whom they see as like themselves.
Yep.
Or those who are propping up the platform and the pedestal upon which they place themselves.
Yeah.
And instead of saying, let's treat each other more Christ-like, let's treat each other more as fellow autonomous humans. Let's raise the level of respect and honor between men and women, from parents to children and children to parents. It's all about that kingdom building in a dictatorship, tyrannical kind of way. And then it's baptized and sanctified in these scriptural terms to silence anyone who might also think for themselves. And basically, like, when you have guys like Dale Partridge who post those, you fixed it, right, Ngina? And it went wild.
Yeah, I did.
Read to your wife, teach your wife, lead your wife. And you were like, why can't you just love your wife? Like, she's your equal, just love your wife. And honestly, that had such throwback to me of, again, that whole Civil War kind of idea. Like, we won't let our slaves learn to read. Why? If you're teaching them to read, they will learn to think for themselves. If they can think for themselves, they will no longer mindlessly and blindly do our bidding with full submission and lack of personhood. And so we ultimately destroy their personhood by removing their right to education. We see this, I'm referring to the United States, but we see this in other cultures where there's a dominating oppressive culture and removing the rights to education. We see it in the Middle East, where women are not allowed to learn to read. Girls are not allowed to go to school in some countries. Same thing. So when guys like Dale Partridge are saying, read to your wife, teach your wife, what he's saying is that he has infantilized his wife to the point that she does not have the human right to read, learn, study, and think for herself. Now, he may not think he's saying that, but that's how it plays out. And every guy who reads that or looks at it or listens to that and walks away feeling more entitled in his own kingpin pedestal status is walking away more like Lucifer.
100%. Yep.
More of, I will be like the Most High. I will stand on the top of the mountain. You will be here to serve me. And it's the opposite of Jesus.
Exactly.
Who got down on his knees. Let me wash your dirty feet. Let me heal your leprosy. Let me touch you where no one will give you a hug in 20 years because you're unclean. Let me wrap you up in care and tenderness at the risk to myself.
Yeah. I just want to say something. I think that the tide is changing. The women are rising up. Christian women are rising up. They're seeing the truth. It is like, it's going to, reach a tipping point. I really believe that one day that this discussion will be like a thing of the past, because it will just be a common thing that men and women respect one another. I don't know if it's going to be around the corner, but I think that that's coming, because I really believe that that's the work that God's doing in the world. But sometimes it takes a rising up and throwing off of chains, and that takes energy, some anger, because we can't rise up if there has to be energy, and people will vilify that energy. They'll say, that's not Christian to have that kind of, but you have to, that's what it is going to take. But I think on the other side of that, we have, exactly. On the other side of that, we have women and hopefully men and young boys who grow up to be men who are in a place where now we've got safety and security and where love can flourish, love and honor of one another, regardless of where we come from, who we are, what our gender is, how much money we have. Love and honor for one another. That's where I think God, I truly believe that is where God is taking us. And I love being part of that movement with you guys. We'll probably die and not see a whole lot of it, but I think we're already seeing a lot of it that's encouraging enough to me to give me a lot of joy. So we're gonna wrap up now because it's been a little over an hour, but this is a special episode. So I just want to thank you guys for celebrating with us, with my community and me, for celebrating 200 episodes. We did also reach, we're a little over 1 million downloads on Apple Podcasts. And that's also just a huge, huge milestone for us right here in 2022. So thank you to both of you for coming. And I want to thank all of the listeners too for listening and for supporting this program and for sharing it with other women who need to hear it. And that's all I have for you for this week. Until next time, fly free.